But on account of the crowd, he could not, because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a tree to see him. Amen. Well, you may have noticed that by now all those beautiful leaves on our trees are gone. We are in stick season, one of those shoulder seasons where we once were no longer where we once were, and we're going on our way to something else. So we find ourselves in the middle. We find ourselves remembering and looking forward in the midst of some barren land around us. When Tim and I went for our walk not long ago, our walk, a long walk, yes it was. We lamented, if you can imagine this, we lamented because we live in the trees, we live in the woods. We lamented that we might not see the leaves on our trees. We love them for obvious reasons. But we weren't thinking ahead very much, were we? We were about to walk into those leaves. Zacchaeus understood walking. In fact, he understood walking so much he ran. He ran to a tree, nonetheless. But Zacchaeus, who is this chief tax collector? It's the second week in a row we get to hear about a tax collector. For you see, the Romans needed tax collected when people came into town and left the town and bought this or bought that. And so they hired a Jew, a member of the house of Israel, to collect that tax. And they said, okay, Zacchaeus, you're Zacchaeus today, Rick. Okay. Think of yourself as short, because you're not. Yes. And collect all this money. But they don't say, you can't collect any more. You're allowed to collect as much as you want. So a good tax collector is someone who collected a lot of tax. Because of that, because of his unethical ways of doing business, he was excluded from the synagogue. He wasn't welcome. He was dirty because he touched money. And he took it from the least of those who walked in and out of the town. Jericho in this case. So when we hear of Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector, wanting to see Jesus, it's out of the ordinary. It's not something normal. It's not something of an everyday experience. Not only that, but he ran. Now he couldn't see, of course, so he wanted to find some place that he could. And in those days, unlike today, running for an adult wasn't seen as okay. It was, again, not a good thing. And then to climb a tree, well, all of that was in the purview of children, of little boys. And he wasn't. So again, once again, he's seen as an outsider, as someone not worthy of the love of God. Someone on the margins. Even though he was wealthy, even though he was a good, though unethical businessman, he was outside of the people of God. But he nonetheless went. He nonetheless wanted to see Jesus. He wanted to see who this guy was. So he ran. that little walk that I was saying before, that we went on, I didn't think that I would see anything out of the ordinary, right? I live in the woods, on a hill. There's a little stream behind the house. These are the things of Vermont, aren't they? I expected to see a lot of that, and I was right. But I didn't, like Zacchaeus, go to see Jesus. I didn't think that that was going to be a part of the journey. But we walked, and we walked, and we walked. And like Zacchaeus, in a different way, we walked and climbed up hills, and down hills, and up hills, and down hills, for 272 short miles. That's it. Somehow, I started to hope to see Jesus. This story, you could say, is a tangible one, isn't it? We can identify so much with so many of the pieces of this story. If we're not short or if we are short, we get stature. You're either looking up or you're looking down. Maybe we understand what running is. Maybe we go for a jog. Maybe we're an athlete as a kid. Maybe we just see people running past our house day after day. And climbing those trees. Unlike the trees in Vermont, I think Barbara told me there's 57 varieties of trees in this state. That's an amazing number of trees. A sycamore tree in the Middle East is smooth. There's no real bark, and what is there cleaves off in paper-thin sheets and litters the ground. So as he's grabbing onto that tree, he's trying to climb up, he might be slipping back down. But he wanted to see this guy, this itinerant preacher, this one who amazing stories were told about. He healed the sick. He said amazing things in teaching. He even raised the dead. He wanted to see Jesus. So once he found a branch, you can imagine, he put his foot on it, touching it, gently putting his weight on it to make sure it would hold him. Something strong, something to hold on to, something for him on which to be held. The trees that surround us here in Vermont bring people to Vermont. It may have brought you to Vermont. Maybe it's why you stayed, because there was something calling you to stand. Something calling us that we just might see Jesus if we take a different view of the world around us. They're not just trees, and they may not just have been given to us because of God. But maybe, just maybe, they help us see God in new ways. So Zacchaeus tried something new. He tried stepping out of comfort zones. He tried to see something that may not be comfortable, right? I mean, who is this guy? Who is this guy, Jesus? He had an expectation, of course. Why else would he have run to see this guy? Why wouldn't he have been pushing through the crowd? Why didn't he otherwise walk away? He wasn't accepted. And then Jesus walked by. Jesus walked down the road, and Jesus looked at Zacchaeus and said to Zacchaeus, "Come on down or spoke to Jesus first. It was the other way. It wasn't, I suspect, what Zacchaeus expected. It was something different. I don't know about you, but there are times in life, and maybe even more often with the holy, that what we expect is not what reality with God is actually like. Zacchaeus got that in full view this day. God looked different all of a sudden. The world shifted. Expectations became a reality that might not have fulfilled or at least fit that expectation. That's what happened for me on that walk. That walk, that small step after step, which is all I could do. Bite off 252 or 272 miles in one step was impossible. And along that way I met Jesus. In a way that I had never expected to see Jesus ever. There's a little prayer that I say to myself every time we say Eucharist. It comes from a collect prayer that we say on the third Sunday of Easter every year. It says, Lord, open the eyes of our faith that we might behold him in all his redeeming work. Zacchaeus, on that day, found redemption. For even Jesus said, this is a son of Abraham. This is a member of your community. And I heard that too. That I too have found redemption in God. It is not something I expected. I expected to see leaves and ground and rocks and roots and some sky. But I found Jesus along that path. And the hope of Easter Day. What might that walk look like for you, no matter how old or young you may be? You may run like Zacchaeus did to the tree. You may walk. You may swim. You may sit. It is amazing to me how Jesus comes, calls us by name every day, whether we are looking for it or not. Zacchaeus stood before Jesus and heard his name be called, and Jesus spent the day with him. Expectations became a reality, and his life was never the same